welcome to the Bonus XP podcast. I'm your host, Luke Morgan. Joining me today, of course, as always, are my two best friends, Mr. Conan.
Bonjour.
And Greiner.
G'day.
Well, this is a different episode than what we plan on doing usually, but it is the week of E3, which is Christmas for gamers. So figured might as well get in early, do some fun predictions for E3 conferences coming up. Obviously, there's about 14 different E3 conferences, so we're just going to focus on probably the three main ones. So Ubisoft, Nintendo, and Xbox Bethesda's joint conference. First of all, boys, do you guys usually watch E3 or you just follow the news that follow it or anything like that? Like, what's your experience with E3 in the past?
I generally just get the recap at the end. I usually don't think about it, and then it happens, and I'm like, oh, cool, let's hear about all the cool games that are coming out, and I promptly forget about them all.
Yeah. Conan?
Yeah, I'm much the same. E3 is like the Mayweather-Logan Paul fight. Sounds great in theory, and then I'm always glad that I don't watch it because it just sounds disappointing or something that I should have spent 10 hours watching.
See, I watched that whole fight yesterday, and yeah, it wasn't great. I'm hoping E3 is more entertaining than that one. So I'm probably the complete opposite. Every year, E3 is like my favorite time of year. I get up and watch all the conferences, 3 a.m., 5 a.m., 2 a.m. I have to sit there and watch it live. I don't know why I can't watch a repeat in the morning. I'd need to be part of that social media excitement about watching it. This will be my first year actually streaming it and doing a live reacts to it, but I'm keen. It should be a big year. Obviously, I'm a little disheartened. PlayStation don't do E3 anymore. They don't think it's necessary for them. They can sort of do their own thing and get away with it, which
arrogance.
has taken away my excitement for E3 a bit.
That's just their general attitude to the gaming industry, isn't it? They don't want to cross-play with anyone else. They don't want to have expos with anyone else.
I mean, some would say they're entitled to that. Like, they're the market leaders, so they can sort of do what they want, and it hasn't really affected them. It's been 2 years now without a Sony E3 conference, but
they are entitled. That's for
it
sure.
was usually the best conference. So we'll get predictions, get going. So first conference coming up is the Ubisoft conference. So this is all Australian time zones, if Americans are confused that they're getting up on the wrong day. So the Ubisoft conference is on Sunday, June 13th at 5 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So a little background on Ubisoft leading up to this. They just showed off a bunch of Far Cry 6 stuff, which is odd. You know, you'd think they'd be doing that at E3, but they just revealed the companions and had their first big story trailer featuring Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. They've said recently that Ubisoft have said they're wanting to make more free-to-play games as a service type games and move away from the AAA like Assassin's Creeds and Watch Dogs and stuff like that, which is kind of disheartening because they're the games that I enjoy. And just a bit more information today, Rainbow Six Extraction was leaked. Like, they've announced this game before, but it was under its previous name, Rainbow Six Quarantine, which they've renamed due to the COVID pandemic. They don't think it's appropriate to have a game named Quarantine, but the name leaked today, and it's Rainbow Six Extraction. But with the steam that Siege has picked up over the last few years, it should be interesting to see what they do with the next game in that
But isn't that
series.
going to be just part of Siege? That was my impression.
I think it's a sequel. I'm pretty sure it's a sequel. Unless it's a major expansion for Siege, but
Siege had a quarantine. Well, I can't remember what the mode was called, but it was like a zombies like quarantine mode that they added in there. So whether it's a fully fledged thing with that, or maybe we should know more about it before we talk about it.
I think it's a full sequel to the first one, but I haven't dived much into Siege. So
I mean, if they're trying to do
I know it's great, and I'd like to play it more, but I'm not much of a.
If they're trying to turn it into more of a service, they'll probably end up trying to blend it in some way anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, not my stuff, but Ubisoft's usually really bad for leaking stuff. So it's surprised there hasn't been much that's come out this year leading up to this conference. But my first prediction for the Ubisoft conference is they'll announce the next expansion pack for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where you play as Ragnar Lothbrok, and that they've casted Travis Flamel from the TV show Vikings to play him, which would be awesome.
This is just your personal dream, isn't it?
This is, I mean, it is my personal dream, but that's my prediction. What I would like to see.
Is there something about Valhalla that excites you more than previous Assassin's Creed games?
Just, it's the setting. Like, I've always been an Assassin's Creed fan. Skipped the last few, just I couldn't get into it. But I'm a big Norse, mythology fan. I love Vikings, and just there's something about Valhalla. The acting in it, the main character, that world. It spoke to me. So it was something that I really just got into, and loving the TV show Vikings, and there is a lot of crossover with characters. It'd be good because Ragnar's time set before the events of Valhalla. It'd be interesting to go back and play as a different character and explore that. But any predictions for the Ubisoft conference, Greiner?
I've got a couple, but I think I definitely think we're going to get another look at Beyond Good and Evil 2. I'm really keen to see what that game ends up being, because it's one of those games that is a sequel to something that's like a real cult hit and seems really unique and interesting. And what they're trying to make seems really unique and interesting, but I just have huge doubts that they're ever going to pull it off. I think they'll show more, but I don't think I still think they won't have a release date.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's been years since it was first revealed, obviously. Yeah. And then
like the game's quickly becoming...
2 years ago, we got the last...
It's becoming Duke Nukem Forever. It's just going to be there, like, constantly in development.
It seems to be going away from what they're doing, and it's something that every now and again we'll get a CGI trailer, but it still seems like something that's so far off that I don't know if we'll see anything. But hopefully we do. There's people who've been waiting for that game for a very long time. I've never played the original, but did you?
No, I never played it.
Oh, true. Conan, any predictions for the Ubisoft conference?
I mean, it's a pretty safe one, but I think Far Cry's got to be like a big thing for them. Even though they did just release a bunch on it, I feel like Far Cry is kind of their go-to now. Besides their other projects, I think this is sort of seems to be the big draw. Ever since 3, they've really just like every time that comes out, they've made it a big deal, and so I think they're going to really lead into this. They're going to play on having Gustavo as like the villain, and they're going to show off more of the crazy stuff. I think this will be a big plug for them this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that... I don't know. I feel like they had their little plug about it recently. It's so close to coming out. I don't know. I feel like E3 should be the more interesting things that are coming up. Like not the game that comes out in 3 months. I know they'll definitely have something on it, but
we'll get a sizzle reel of gameplay.
I'm not saying this is what I want it to be.
The only thing that would get me hyped.
No, I just hope it's not like half their conference, because that would be really boring.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that would get me hyped more about Far Cry 6 is if they had Heisenberg as another character and you could just role-play a Breaking Bad scenario in that. But it looks fun. They've got a sausage dog that's in a wheelchair as a companion, and everybody loves that. So. Exactly.
Far Cry lost its way. Dog.
Like I didn't get much into 5. I was interested in it, but I never really finished it or got much into it. But yeah. My second prediction is that they will announce something to do with Splinter Cell, but it won't be what people are looking forward to.
That's my dream.
Maybe a games as a service thing, or as a character in the next Rainbow Six, or he'll show up in some Ghost Recon thing again, but it won't be what people want.
My prediction was another Splinter Cell announcement. I mean, I feel like after they got Ironside back to do that little cameo in Ghost Recon, like surely they have to bring him back. I would love them to do a Metal Gear Solid 5, but with Splinter Cell with Michael Ironside. Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, that would be great.
The demand's there. Like fans are clamoring for it. So.
And it has been long enough for it now that I think that appetite's really voracious. I just saw something as well today. Like there's some spoiler got it. There was like a leak that there seems to be a project sort of combining all these universes, like the Division and Splinter Cell and Ghost Recon. So I wonder if that's something like that'll come out.
Yeah.
Or like say like as a service or some sort of shared, I don't know, battle royale, something. That's sort of like a combination of all these entities as one.
Ubisoft All Stars.
Man, if Sam Fisher comes back and it's in a battle royale game, I don't know how the Splinter Cell fans are going to react to that. But
not
just
well.
all
not
out,
well.
they see him just with a machine gun, broad daylight, doing dabs, running around shooting people. Just completely killed that series. I mean, it was always second fiddle to Metal Gear Solid, so might as well bury it. Any wild predictions or hopes for Ubisoft conferences that we haven't gone over?
That was my wild
I'll give you mine. Oh, really? Do you have a normal prediction you haven't shared?
Prince of Persia. Some update on that.
So actually, on Prince of Persia, they released an update just about a couple of hours ago saying, don't expect this at E3. This game has been delayed till next year. They've just delayed it another year, and they said it's not going well, the development. So that's a shame. But
that is a shame.
All right, my wild prediction that I don't think is going to happen in a million years is Ubisoft launching a brand new IP. Not a sequel to something they've made before, not something in a series that they've done already, but a brand new IP that they put a full AAA budget behind and launch. I mean, look, it's pie in the sky, but I would love to see them do
it. See, that'd be great. Like the last thing that they do weird IP like Steep and these weird like sporty sort of BMX games, but that's the thing. Watch Dogs, when it was first revealed, was so big because it was the first look at a next-gen game back then for PS4 and Xbox One. Like, it was the first big thing. People were like, wow, look at this game. Obviously, it didn't look like that when it came out.
No, it didn't.
But then again, we've just gotten Watch Dog game after Watch Dog game. And, like, a Watch Dog Legion came out, and it sort of just came and went with a whimper. No one really knows that it came out. So, but a new IP would be great. I don't know what sort of... Do you have any... like hopes for what that setting would be, or
I don't know. So the thing I think Ubisoft has done that's kind of interesting, and like this is going back a little while, but did any of you guys play Grow Home? It's kind of a cool little creative indie game that had this really interesting control, like animation system to it, where you're climbing this vine. Anyway, I'd love to see them take some of those ideas that they have gambled on in smaller scale, give them a big budget, give them a team behind it, because they have the resources. I mean, every big market, the games market, the movie market, like everybody's so risk averse. Everybody just wants to release the sequel that they know is going to sell the numbers. But I mean, this prediction goes for probably any of the conferences. Like, give me some new IPs, give me some fresh ideas.
Yeah, it's sorely needed these days. Well, my wild idea, I'm not sure if this is a hope of mine. I don't really want it, but something I could see them doing would be a remake of the original Assassin's Creed with the new open world mechanics and updated combat. Because I think the original one really stands out when you look at the other games as something that doesn't hold up. But I don't think they'd do that. Like they're definitely moving on to feudal Japan for their next Assassin's Creed, I think so. Which Ghost of Tsushima already beat them to it, and like probably did it better. So next we've got the Xbox Microsoft Xbox Bethesda conference, joint conference on Monday, June 14th at 3 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which fortunately our government's given us a public holiday to watch, which is very generous of them.
Thank the Queen.
E3 day,
Expecting a big showing here. It's been 2 years without E3. It's the first conference since the big Bethesda acquisition. They each usually have an hour and a half conference of their own, and a lot of first-party studios working on unannounced exclusives and games we haven't heard on in a while. My first prediction for this, and it's something that has been rumored, so this is kind of a cheating one, but Starfield will be fully revealed, Xbox console exclusive. I think it will be coming early next year, not this year, and that Tom Cruise has been cast as the main character and will be on stage for a Keanu Reeves-esque reveal at E3.
That's the new norm.
Geez, early next year feels really early.
I've always assumed Starfield's way off in the distance, but people have been hyping up as something they're expecting a big showing at this conference, which is the only reason I think it might be sooner. But I don't know. You'd think Elder Scrolls would be coming first.
Yeah, I think so.
But if it is something that they've been working on and they're going to release now, I don't think they release it this year with Halo Infinite coming out this year as well. I think they'd want them a bit of gap between them. So early next year. But if I'm being honest, I think it's probably 2 years away, knowing that
at least.
So. Greiner, prediction for Xbox?
I mean, Elder Scrolls 6. I think we get to see a lot of it. And I think we might get a release date. Like, I feel like it's coming before Starfield, and I feel like it's time.
Yeah, it is. It's been 10 years this year since Skyrim. Conan, do you want to see an Elder Scrolls 6?
Oh, I'd be all for that. I'm always keen to see them go back to single-player adventures instead of online stuff. I don't know if we'll get that much on it, though. I feel like it'll be like cinematics, maybe a little bit of gameplay, but I don't think it'll... I don't know about a release date. I feel like that's still far off.
Xbox exclusive, or do they release that on PlayStation with the market that's on PlayStation?
I think it comes out everywhere.
Yeah. Like, the Elder Scrolls has that already.
As a place... Exactly. Like, it seems silly for people to be like, well, Xbox bought them. They're going to make it Xbox exclusive. But the smart business way I see it is you'd be silly to not have, like, the market leader in PlayStation not release your big game on that for $100 while it's coming out on your console for Games Pass. Like, $9 a month. You get all, like, first-party games for free. So you get Starfield, you get Elder Scrolls 6 for free with Game Pass subscription, or you can buy it on PlayStation for $100 and we get the money anyway.
Yeah.
That's just too smart and too much money, and a company would be silly not to do that. So I can see Starfield being Xbox exclusive. I can't see Elder Scrolls 6 being exclusive. So
I think you're right.
Conan, predictions for Xbox?
I'm feeling Fable. I feel like Fable's got to come out a bit more. We had that teaser. And in the same vein as Elder Scrolls, it's been a long time. And, you know, we've had a lot of betrayals in that time with that awful Kinect version and that other one that they can. So I'm thinking that they'll actually show something tangible of this. It won't be a release date, but I think there will be a really beautiful cinematic and, you know, 30 seconds of gameplay. But something to be like, hey, this is happening. We're not just, you know, pulling your leg for another 10 years.
Greiner, what's your experience with Fable?
I loved the original Fable, and I did play the sequels, but the original Fable, like, I played that game a lot. I finished that game several times. I just had a lot of fun with it. It came out at the right time when I had a HSC to study for, so I just played Fable instead. And do you think there's an appetite for Fable, though? Like, I don't feel like it was ever the biggest game ever.
Fable 1, I think, was huge.
I think if you have a conference with Fable and Elder Scrolls 6, nobody's remembering Fable coming out of that. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
If they show off like Elder Scrolls and make that a big deal, you're right. It would be weird to sort of tack that on the side. But I don't know if they'll make Elder Scrolls a huge deal. I guess it will go one way or the other.
And before moving on from Fable, what is your guys' opinion though? Because it's been developed by Playdead, who made the Forza games. This is their first foray outside of that, and they've been working on it for 2 years or so now. How do we think that will go?
The franchise,
what they do, like Forza. Like, Forza's not a game that I've played a lot of, but I know it's very well loved, and I know they handle it pretty well. Like, I feel like it's in good hands. I think better than Peter Molyneux's hands.
Exactly.
Conan?
Yeah, I think it showed that sort of staying with him wasn't a good idea. It really went stale and fell apart. And this could be exactly what it needs to sort of go back and remind us why, like, the whole world was playing Fable 1, I think. Everybody I know was talking about it. Everyone played that game. And so to sort of come back and be like, hey, we're doing that again for the modern generations, I think could be really valuable. And so I'm glad it's not in Molyneux's hands. It's getting a new perspective. And
that's the thing, like, it seems weird for a studio to divert that much, but it sometimes does pay off big time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Guerrilla Games, going back to PlayStation, moved from Killzone to their first open world third-person game in Horizon. And I mean, more people are clamoring for another Horizon than another Killzone anytime soon. So
I think it'll make them work harder for it than it would if it was just in the hands of Molyneux and his team. They'd be lazy. These guys will work twice as hard, hopefully.
Yeah, to prove himself, absolutely. My second prediction for Xbox, and this one breaks my heart to say this because I don't want it to happen, but I think Hideo Kojima will be there to announce he's making a Xbox timed exclusive game. As a diehard Metal Gear Solid fan and PlayStation fan, this one hurts my heart a bit, but it just seems like they're teasing it. Phil Spencer did a video on YouTube a month or two ago, and he had the Kojima Productions, like Luden's figure on his shelf in the background, and he's done stuff teasing like that in the background. And it seems like PlayStation and Kojima have sort of split up after the release of Death Stranding. It didn't look like they were very happy with the results from that. Even though it was critically well received, I don't think it sold very well. And they gave him a lot of... critically mixed, but a lot of people really enjoyed it. A lot of people really enjoyed it. I didn't. Personally, but the amount of money that went into that, I don't think it saw a return. So I can see him going elsewhere. But
yeah, I love Kojima, and I love what he does. Like, he is one of those developers that takes risks and is bringing out, like, even each Metal Gear Solid game, like, often they're different enough from each other that he's trying really unique new ideas that nobody else tries and nobody else does again, because some of them aren't that great sometimes. But he's always a guy I'm watching out for. I mean, if it's an Xbox exclusive, that's cool. I don't really care where he does it. I just hope he gets money. Like, I was glad that he got that money from PlayStation, was able to produce what he did. I enjoyed watching the Death Stranding cutscenes on YouTube, but it doesn't look like a game I'd ever sit there and play.
No. And I mean, like, that's the thing. I think Kojima is great, but I think he needs some shackles. I don't think you can just let him run free roam.
Yeah.
Because then you have Norman Reedus with monster energy cannons, like punching the camera if you're looking at his Johnson. Bunch of weird stuff. Kojima's a bit kooky, and I love him for that, but I think he needs some people to be like, okay, let's stay on track and make a game here, sort of thing.
He's the David Lynch of the game universe. Like, he's got a style, but I think he works better when you tame him. And yeah, like, to your point, Greiner, he's one of the most valuable voices to have in gaming because he does things different. He doesn't go to any mold, and that's necessary to keep the industry changing and evolving and just producing good stuff. Hopefully we get Silent Hills with a slightly different name.
I don't think that's ever happening.
Loud Valleys.
I mean, maybe under a different brand, yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Loud Valleys. Any other predictions for Xbox or wild predictions?
I have two more predictions. Can we just run them quick, both? I mean, we're going to see Halo Infinite. I think they're really going to show off what they've been working on for the last few months. I still don't know if we get, like, it's coming out in September or whenever it's supposed to. Like, I think it might still get pushed back. And I think that would be to its benefit, especially after what we saw with Cyberpunk 2077 and the hype around it, and then just the lack of delivering on that. Like, I think for a little while, for these big games, it will pay to say, like, we know this isn't quite right. We're going back to the drawing board and we're making it right before we release it. And I think people will really respect that. As much as people want the game now, I think 2077 has just really changed hype.
and COVID, like people understand you can't make a game as good as you were 2 years ago without everyone being in a studio and everyone's working from home, and there's so much more restrictions on what people can do. It's hard, but it'd be interesting if they don't have Halo released this year. They haven't had an exclusive game yet since their new console came out.
It's true.
Which, like, it's not really Xbox's thing, though. I think Xbox's appeal is their Game Pass subscription.
I think they are trying to get back into the exclusives game though. Like, they have acquired a lot of studios, not least of which is Bethesda, and I think they will in the years to come. I think they really learned from what happened in the last generation. Like, PlayStation really ran away with it, and I think it was largely because of the exclusives. And I mean, obviously, there's lots of factors. They fumbled it really bad at the launch and stuff like that.
At the start, like football, TV, TV.
But I think they've learned from that, and I think we're going to see some really cool exclusives, and it's just going to make that Game Pass be so much more better value. I'm keen for it. I'm keen to have it on my PC once there's a game I really want.
It's such good value, Game Pass. Like I can't deny it. Like it's insane to think that so many third-party games you could get for free on Xbox. Conan, another prediction for Xbox?
I mean, Halo's a guarantee. We want to see something. I'm hoping for Perfect Dark. I don't know if they'll really show much. It might just be,
I forgot they revealed that.
It might just be a bit more of a tease, but I'm hoping there's something there. And new Banjo-Kazooie, I think, it's definitely rumored and is going to come out at some point. Like Yooka-Laylee obviously reminded people that Banjo-Kazooie is great. So I'm hoping for that.
Yeah.
And there's the team that made that, I think, probably the ones who do it with a bit of oversight from some rare stuff. So, like I say, hopefully Xbox just does lean into that a bit more and say, hey, here's a bunch of different titles. My other big thing would be Wolfenstein 3, which, again, that's my wild card, I really want that to be. Or the Evil Within.
That would be cool.
Interesting. Yeah, they could. Greiner, wild prediction for Xbox. All right.
I think Microsoft is the team to do this. I think they've got the technology behind them. They're ready for this. The world has changed since last year. I'm not talking about COVID, though. I'm talking about NFTs, non-fungible tokens. These things have great potential in the gaming industry. People are just making collectible card games with them and stuff like that. But you know what we really need? Do you guys remember Tarzos? A collectible Tarzo games backed by NFTs. I want to trade my golden Marvin the Martian for your hollow Elmer Fudd. I want to do that on an Xbox.
Like digitally?
Yes, and I own it because of it's backed by the blockchain.
The NFT.
That's the worst idea.
Wow. That's a wild prediction. No one else is going to make that prediction.
No one else is that dumb.
You guys don't. I mean, you just mustn't have the nostalgia for Tarzos.
Oh, I remember Tarzos, but the thrill was opening packets of chips.
If I was more organised, I was going to get our collection out of the shed. But
Conan, you are not aware of the fandom on YouTube for cracking packs of FIFA.
It's a thing.
Like online.
It's a total thing.
Loot boxes. Loot boxes are basically the modern day equivalent, and people will watch like that on YouTube, and so
maybe Tarzos, maybe Tarzos of the future. NFT Tarzos are
I do think there'll be something with NFTs and the game. Maybe Tarzos is a little silly, but
Hideo Kojima will reveal his Tarzo game in collaboration with Guillermo del Toro.
He's not making games anymore. He just makes Tarzos full time.
Yep. Conan, any wild predictions for Xbox or Wolfenstein or Evil Within 3 would be pretty nuts.
That'll be my most wild one. That's my real hope. That's my dream prediction. We get that with the team from number 2.
Yeah.
But I doubt it will happen. It's not their most popular project.
No. So my wild prediction for Xbox is that they announce Xbox Games Pass is coming to Nintendo Switch this year, starting with the Switch Pro. But we'll get into that in the Nintendo conference.
Is this because they're in bed together?
They've got a relationship with Nintendo. Like they've released Ori, which is an Xbox exclusive there. They're working on stuff, and I can see them getting in bed with each other.
I wonder if Nintendo will allow that sort of subscription service on their platform, though. Like, I think that's
PlayStation won't.
Yeah,
I could see Nintendo.
I could see them being more likely to do it than PlayStation. But I also feel like Nintendo are really behind on. Like, even their online subscription service is the worst of the 3 by a long margin.
Yeah,
like
by a long
they
margin.
Just don't seem to understand online. So maybe that's how Microsoft gets it through. They don't really understand what's going on, but I just don't know if I see it.
I think it would be a limited version of Game Pass, because obviously all them third-party games won't run on a Nintendo Switch. No. But I think, a few Xbox indie games like Ori and stuff like that, as $5 a month or whatever on Switch could do something. But our final conference we'll get into is the Nintendo conference, which is next Wednesday, June 16th at 2 a.m. It's been a year since we've heard anything about Breath of the Wild 2. There's no way it doesn't show without people being disappointed. and we also, it's been a while since we got some updates on big games like Metroid 4 and Bayonetta 3. But my first prediction for this is Breath of the Wild 2 gameplay reveal, big gameplay reveal, and it'll launch in September this year.
So my first prediction is Breath of the Wild 2 will not be shown at this conference.
Oh wow! Wow.
I think people are expecting it, but I just don't think it's coming.
Don't think it's coming soon?
I think it's not that far away, but I just don't think that. I think Nintendo's started to show something and then it's out in 3 weeks, or it's out in the next 6 months.
They're definitely on like a 2-3 month schedule.
Yeah, and I just don't think it shows.
Breath of the Wild 2 is different though. I think they want to. There'll be a lot of disappointed Nintendo fans if they don't show Breath of the Wild 2 at this E3 conference.
I'm there for it when it's released. Don't you worry. But I just don't think we get to see it this E3.
So Conan, any predictions for Nintendo? Yeah. Well, we've lost our good friend Conan, unfortunately. May he rest in peace. His internet's crashed and he won't be back for the night. So we're just going to wrap this up on our own. So my next prediction, I'm not sure if I'm stealing this from Conan because I didn't make out what he was saying before he cut out, but I think the Nintendo Switch Pro will be announced and finally revealed. 4K when docked and all that fancy stuff. And I think it's launching side by side with Breath of the Wild 2 in September, which is my hope, but also my prediction.
I think this one is the safe bet. Like, I think we definitely get this announcement, and like I said, I think Nintendo announces things like 2 to 3 months, and then we have it.
Yeah.
So September's probably right. It's a good time to get in early for Christmas.
If they announce a Switch Pro at E3, it's coming out this year, like easily. So, any other predictions for Nintendo?
So I've got 2 more. So I think we're going to see Metroid, and I think we'll get a release date. I think that's the one we see. Like, I know it was in trouble, but
it'd be big. But
yeah, I feel like that's the big one we get. I hope. I would love that. If it ends up being a good game, it could be terrible.
It'd be interesting because it's changed developers and everything. So
it was in trouble by the sounds of things.
Bad. But it could be interesting. Another prediction, I didn't write this down, but something I thought of earlier is I would really like them to see, like, do a HD remake of Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time on the Switch. Even if they just do a cheap job like they did with the Mario 64 pack and just release those games on the Switch, that would be great. If I could play Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time on the Switch handheld, I'd be all in on that. So
I feel like I'd be down for it, but I think I said the same thing about Super Mario 64, and then I just saw the poor job they did, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to support that. Like, it seems really lazy.
I did say the same thing about Mario 64, and I bought it and I played it for about 10 minutes. I was like, that's neat. Yeah. But I have much more of a connection with Ocarina of Time than I do Super Mario 64. My wild prediction is that Master Chief will be announced for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and will coincide with Game Pass coming to the Switch as well.
That'd be pretty cool.
So, like, they have to announce a Smash character, surely. So,
they're still releasing Smash characters, are they? I haven't kept up with Smash.
Oh, they've still got like another 8 coming that haven't been revealed. So, they're
at least 7 of them will be Fire Emblem characters, but
exactly,
Fire Emblem characters are Master Chief, I guess.
Yep. Your wild prediction for Nintendo?
This is a series that I think a lot of people have loved over the years, and we haven't seen in a while. Nintendogs. Bring it to the Switch. Let us play with our little electronic dogs.
So, like, that has to be what closes out the show.
Yeah, for sure.
They do Breath of the Wild, and then they're like, we've got one more thing. Nintendogs.
I think it's just I don't even know if they say the name of it. It's just a real quick teaser, and it's just like a puddle of dog pee on the floor, and you see like a shadow walking away of a dog, and that's all you get.
Have it be really like dark, like just have like a fully 4K graphics, like, you know, out in the rain, and you just hear dogs barking off in the distance, and it's just like Nintendogs is in development for the Switch. Just like super gritty, realistic Nintendogs game. I'd be down for that. Well, that's our predictions for E3. any other predictions overall for the conference, or anything you're wanting to see, or anything in particular? Or
I think it'll be interesting. Like, I think, did E3 go ahead last year? I'm a bit out of the loop with last year, but it didn't go ahead, did it?
They cancelled it last year. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what E3 is this year. It'll be interesting to see what E3 is post-COVID world, if there is ever such a thing. Like, if we ever return to conventions, will there be another E3? Like, I feel like this is a better format for him. Like,
it seems like a lot of journalists are not sure what the point of this whole E3 thing is. Like, a lot of people having to get digital passes to then join onto websites, and they're making them weird avatars of them and everything like that. It's a weird thing. I think E3 is pretty dated, and I think more game developers and companies are realizing they don't need E3, and they can have their own Nintendo Direct or PlayStation State of Play or anything, and it serves just as much purpose, and they don't have to book out a convention center.
I think the problem is, though, that the only people that hurts, like, that doesn't hurt Microsoft, right? If Microsoft holds a press conference, you're going to hear about it. You're going to hear about what they announce. It does hurt the little developers that go there and get found out, and some guy on IGN writes about this little indie game that he played on the floor, and then you're hyped about it and you want to play it.
Exactly. And that's the argument for E3, and that's the thing. But
I don't know. I don't know if those sorts of things aren't better served by PAX or something like that anyway.
Yeah. Have like an indie focused one, but you are right. Like, it's the ones that aren't featured in conferences that some developer, like, CD Projekt Red was there one year with just 2 computers running The Witcher 1 with like 4 people staff there, showing off their game. So it's where people like get their product out there and what their passion is. So, I mean, I love E3. I think it is disappearing with the times, and especially with COVID, it's made it a bit more difficult. But I'll be enjoying it. So I love getting up early and watching the conferences and having a little packet of snacks next to the couch. And
there is something fun about it. Like you said, having Christmas for gamers. Like, all my announcements are going to happen in the next week. Let's get it done. Yeah. Like, there is something fun to that.
Exactly. So we're planning on doing a E3 reaction for the Xbox Bethesda conference next Monday at 3 a.m. Tune along. We'll be very tired and cranky, I'm sure, if we end up doing it. We all have young children, and we can be tired, and it is 3 a.m. here in Australia, so we'll see if we get around to it. But thank you for watching. It's our first video of us doing this sort of E3 prediction stuff, and we should have a podcast out in the next week or two for Bonus XP, which is a new thing that we're trying to do here. And if you haven't heard of us and this is your first time seeing us, we also have another podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Worst, where we review and rank movie trilogies, and it's quite fun and gets pretty heated sometimes. The Alien one was fun.
Get around it.
So thanks for joining again. I'm your host, Luke Morgan. That's Greiner. We'll see you next time.
Conan was he? Not anymore.
Conan was here. Don't worry about him.